Let me tell you a story. So this story starts in 2010. About a year and a half after President Obama was inaugurated, a conservative political group known then, and raise your hand if you recognize the name of this group, which was the Linchpins of Liberty. Does that name ring a bell? The Linchpins of Liberty out of Ohio. Now, I remembered at the time because I was covering it on the air while I worked at Fox, but they were filing for their tax-exempt status under the IRS code 501c3. A lot of companies do. A lot of organizations do, right? This conservative group's mission, they say, is to, quote, challenge the imagination of the rising generation. That's their sort of mission statement. That's their mission. And they basically mentored high school and college students in conservative political philosophies. This was their goal. Taught them about, reading great books. Here's what you should read. Educate them about the constitutional order of law. This is things that they would teach them right through their charity. And in many ways, it actually sounds a lot like what we do on this show, doesn't it? At least we hope to. Challenge conventional wisdom, right? Maybe make you think about something you haven't thought about before. Give you some good books to go and read if you want a little bit more deeper understanding of the subject. And we vigorously defend those stories, right? We vigorously defend those values. That's what we try to do on this show. We are staunchly anti-war on this show. We are anti-violence on this show. Very similar to what the Linchpins of Liberty did at the time. So they applied, and now it's making me think we should apply for a tax-exempt status as a charity.
Yeah, sure.
Sidebar. But anyway, so the Linchpins of Liberty, they were filing for this tax-exempt status under the 501c3 code in order to raise money as a conservative charity organization. Well, unbeknownst to almost anyone in the United States at this time, the Obama administration had privately started weaponizing the Internal Revenue Service, also known as the IRS, and to start investigating conservative groups. Now, Kevin Kukugi, which was the president of the Linchpins of Liberty at the time, he didn't even know about the dozens upon dozens of other conservative groups that had also filed for tax-exempt status as well and were awaiting IRS approval. So Kevin just thought he was by himself at the Linchpins of Liberty. He didn't realize how many other groups were doing the same thing. He would later find out that the approval process for a 501c3 usually takes about 2 to 3 months. At the time, in 2010, the IRS processed over 60,000 applications a year for tax-exempt status. And again, the usual processing time for these was about 2 to 3 months, which was odd for a guy like Kevin, who was wondering why in the hell after 27 months was his approval had not come through yet. 27 months. He went public about this, and he later learned that over 40 other conservative charities were also stuck in this same limbo. Because of these delays, then Kevin, along with the heads of all these other charities, lost tens of thousands of dollars in grant monies. These were other companies and other people saying, hey, we're going to give you this grant, but we can't just give it to a random person. It has to be to a certified IRS charity, right? Well, you're not yet approved? Well, then we're going to take this money and position it elsewhere. Sorry, Kevin. And sorry to your charity. And that's what happened because they couldn't accept money legally under this IRS code. But we now know that the IRS was blocking conservative groups from getting approval at the direction of administration officials, that the IRS had a list of conservative names and terms and terminologies that were flagged. So, for instance, you see the word patriot, right? If they saw the word patriot, that'd be put on a blacklist. Just among one word, many, many words like that, though. Any words that related to conservative values or companies would get put on this blacklist. Now, according to the lawsuits, the IRS officials across the country purportedly pulled applications from conservative organizations, delayed processing those applications for sometimes well over a year, and then they made harassing, probing, and unconstitutional requests for additional information. Like, we need more information. Like, you're filing for a mortgage. How many of you watching right now have ever filed for a mortgage and they keep coming back with like more and more documents? We need this, we need this, we need this, right? So they keep asking for documents, keep delaying the process. But other groups weren't, just these conservative groups that kept getting hit by this. And it amounted to a considerable loss of funds, donor support, and the damages went on and on and on as a result of this. In other words, the Obama administration weaponized the IRS to target conservative groups. This isn't a conspiracy theory. They did this, and they later apologized for it. The IRS apologizes for aggressive scrutiny of conservative groups. But of course, we know this because 3 years later, in 2013, after intense scrutiny and interviews and push by the press, they admitted to it and apologized for it. And the IRS said it would do better eventually. They fired top-level officials as a result of it. The head of the IRS lost his job because of it. They cleaned house, they said. Back in 2011, once the IRS admitted in the front of the Bar Association, one of the members did in front of the Bar Association, that it had in fact been targeting conservative groups, a massive lawsuit unfolded. And the conservative groups joined forces to sue the IRS. That's how they knew about it. Well, they admitted it. We're going to sue now. We know it was a concerted effort. Here was the lonus. Here was the defendant list, and take a look at that name in the middle there. This is important. These were the list of defendants that they sued. Among them, there, Lois Lerner. Another one on that list among the defendants in the Obama administration is another one, Nicole Flax. These are important. Just put a pin in those names and those for a second here because these are all important. Nicole Flax, Lois Lerner. Both of these women who were actively involved in the IRS targeting of conservative groups. Sued for it. They were sued for it. Lois Lerner was in charge of the tax-exempt division. She was in charge of it. There she is. She was in charge of approving these. She was the one who would approve or deny these groups. And then during congressional investigations, Lois Lerner repeatedly pled the fifth and said that her hard drive had crashed and that she didn't have the evidence that the committees were seeking. So
that's too bad.
Yeah, then we found out that she had also, it wasn't that just, her hard drive crashed. You know what she did? Here's what she did. So, I don't know, the emails aren't on my hard drive. It crashed. And so what I did in an effort to try to recover this missing material is that I also had it wiped and then recycled. I had the hard drive cleaned off and then recycled so that all of those problem emails.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So I'll get rid of all those problem emails.
That's the best way to take care of data.
Right, is to recycle it, is to clean it off and then recycle it, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
She recycled the computer, and then all of those emails disappeared permanently. And then we learned 6 other IRS officials during these investigations also admitted that their computers suddenly had problems and those emails disappeared too. Gone. It's almost like they planned all of this, right? Like it was all coordinated somehow, you would think. Almost like someone had guidance from the Obama White House. Here's how Megyn Kelly put it back then, years ago.
We learned that nearly 2 years of Ms. Lerner's emails vanished when her computer crashed. Then we found out that 6 other IRS employees' emails apparently went poof. Terrible, terrible computer glitches at the IRS. Now we are hearing that Lois Lerner's hard drive not only crashed, but that it was recycled or wiped clean. Why'd they do that? And today a bombshell report shows one of those 6 who also lost their emails magically also happened to be a frequent visitor to the White House. And she just so happened to be chief of staff to the former acting IRS commissioner, Stephen Miller, who resigned in the wake of the targeting scandal.
Yeah, that person going to the White House 35 times was Nicole Flax. Nicole Flax. Remember, I showed you that name earlier because she was one of the defendants actively involved in the targeting of these conservative groups. Well, the reason I'm telling you all of this is to give you some context over the people and the Biden administration has just put in charge of their massive expansion of the IRS. Yes, the billions that the IRS just received to hire 87,000 armed IRS agents will now have as their leader of this expansion, Nicole Flax. So the very same person who was helping to target conservative groups is now going to be the very same person who's overseeing this expansion of the IRS. What could go wrong?
So you're telling me it's not a good time to organize a conservative group?
No, it's not. It's not a good time to be a conservative. It's not a good time to organize. It's not a good time to seek tax exempt status. Because now you're going to have the IRS scrutiny and the audits and, who knows what else.
Right. So,
and if you don't,
will groups like Black Lives Matter who, use their donations in a dodgy way, maybe also get a visit? Or
remind us of what Black Lives Matter did.
Okay. They used a series of LLCs and different ownership tactics to buy luxury goods for themselves, including really expensive real estate.
Yeah, they bought a house
in Los Angeles, and I think another one in Toronto, if memory serves.
So these people who were donating to Black Lives Matter thinking they were gonna on the memory of real victims of police brutality, and the Black Lives Matter folks were taking that money and using it to raise their own personal brands. Right, and enrich themselves. Absolutely. Yeah, well,
it seems they did it through, a series of, shadow LLCs and things like that. I'm going off of memory here, but at the same time, they are not a conservative group. So will they get a pass? Whereas conservative groups who do something similar will get the book thrown at them.
I mean, of course, we know the answer to this, right? I mean, we are a news show. We're giving you the context here. It's like fool me once, shame on you, right?
Sure.
Fool me twice, shame on me. And so here we go. This woman who's been there, by the way, she has a LinkedIn profile. I was on it, looking at her LinkedIn profile today. 15 years at the IRS. She's a career deep stater at the IRS, right? Now she's actively in charge of the massive expansion of the IRS. And if you think the Biden administration isn't going to use them to go after political enemies, I mean, come on. If you think that the Biden administration is frankly just an extension of the Obama administration anyway, which I do. I mean, all of them are former Obama's administration officials, right? They're all there. They're all together again, running the show. Of course this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And again, what bothers me so much about it is that President Obama tried to pass it off, right? As this he called it, I think at the time he called it some boneheads. He called it some boneheads that
some rogue people.
Yeah, it was not corruption. Bill O'Reilly even asked him, at the time, in an interview, was this corruption? Was it? He said, no, it wasn't we're close to corruption. It was just some boneheads in an office in Ohio. Had nothing to do. Meanwhile, we learned that the woman who was literally involved in being sued and was overseeing the approval process was at the White House at least 35 times, meeting with the head of the IRS. Okay, coincidence?
Well, and the thing is too, you can try to put it on a party like that, but it's like if you look at things that come into light that a Republican would put in place, and then the coming Democratic president has a chance to overturn it, they just expand upon it. Mm-hmm. And then the Republican comes in, and then they just expand upon it even further. So it's just an establishment. The establishment is in control, and that's both parties have been co-opted by the establishment. And so we get the same thing regardless of who we have.
Yes, but we blame presidents for a culture, right? And so could Obama have stopped this? I want to make the case that sure, yeah, he could have, right? If he got word of this, he could say this is unacceptable under my administration, right? And so there's a culture of what is allowed and what is not. And so, this is telling.
Yeah, it's really telling. So get ready for your IRS to be weaponized in more ways than one.